Okay, so now that we've created our control and we've created the preset within After Effects, we've got everything we need to build our .pseudo file. The first thing we're going to have to do is have both of those two files. And here I have our simplegraphs2.ffx, and that's the preset we created in the last tutorial on creating complex presets. And then I also have the simplegraphscontrol.xml, which is what we saved out from the custom controls creator. If we take a look at this XML file, you can see that it's just our single effect from opening to closing effect tags. And it's got everything in here that we need for our control. So that's one file, and it's saved into just a single XML file all by itself. You definitely don't want to include the entire preseteffects.xml file because that's going to cause errors. Now for this pseudo effect for simple graphs, we only needed a single control. However, if your pseudo effect uses multiple controls, you actually want to put each of them into the same file. So you would have multiple effects tags all together within one file. And you can actually put as many separate controls as you want to put into a single file. So the other file you're going to need is your FFX file, which is the preset file. And if you saved it in After Effects into the default user presets folder, then the way you get to that is to go into your documents, into the Adobe folder, into your version of After Effects, and then into the user presets folder, and it'll be inside of that. So now we have the two files we need, and we're actually just going to drag both of these inside the section up here, and you can see the two files have been imported successfully because both of their file names are showing up down here, and the backgrounds are highlighted in light blue. So that's half the work we have to do. The other half is just to fill out some of this information on the right side. So the pseudo effect name is just simple graphs. The creator name is you or your company. In my case, it's batch frame. Version number is going to be 1.0.0. You can label the versions however you'd like. If you want it to be just 1.0, you can do that. You can even just do 1, however you want, as long as it's numbers. And the minimum required version is going to be After Effects CC. Now, the reason for this is that the preset was created in After Effects CC, and presets are not backwards compatible. So if we create it in a newer version, it's not going to be available in any older versions. It'll install fine, but it won't actually work in After Effects. So if you want your preset and your pseudo effect to be available in older and newer versions of After Effects, you have to create that preset in the earliest possible version of After Effects. Now, Simple Graphs could have been created in an earlier version because all of its effects were available in previous versions of After Effects. But because we used After Effects CC for this example, it's only going to be available in After Effects from CC onwards. The pseudo effect installer is going to use this value to determine whether or not the user can install the pseudo effect properly. So be sure to set this value to the correct version. Now, if we move on to the last two fields, you can see that both of these are optional. We have the update URL and the update key. Now I'm going to come back to the update URL in a second, but I first just want to mention something about the update key. The first time you're creating your pseudo effect, such as we're doing now, you will not have an update key. The update key is only going to be used when you're creating your first update. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Now the update URL is a URL that links to an XML file that will tell the installer about when updates are available for your pseudo effect. Now let me show you an example of that file. Now you can see this is just a very simple XML file that has an update tag which contains a version number and a URL. The version number is the current version of your pseudo effect. So right now this is going to be 1.0. And then the URL is the link to where you can download that pseudo effect and that pseudo file. And this will have to be somewhere on your website or somewhere else where it's hosted. Now, right now we have version 1, but if we were creating version 2, we would put a 2 in here. When the user installs this pseudo file, it's going to know what version and where to look for your update XML. And if it checks it and sees that your version number is higher than the version that's been installed, it's going to alert the user and tell them that they have an update that can be downloaded. And you can find more information about creating these update XML files in another tutorial. So in here, we're going to put in our update URL, and it has to be properly formatted. It's going to turn the background red until it's 100% correct. And you can see that once we've completed our URL, the background turns blue and the Save Pseudo Effect button becomes active. So that's it. That's all we have to do to create this file. The last step is just to hit the Save Pseudo Effect button, and we can save out our pseudo effect. So hit save. Your pseudo effect has been created, and you hit OK, and that's it. So if we go into our Simple Graphs folder, we can see two new files have been created. We have our .pseudo file, and this is what you're going to give to your users to install. We also have the simplegraphs.txt. If we open this up, you can see that it's just a random bunch of numbers, and this is what you're going to use as your update key when you create version 2. So let's pretend we're creating a second version. We'll change the version number to 2, and we'll re-import those files, our XML and our preset. And if you're actually creating an update, then these probably should be different files, but in this example, we're just going to use the same ones. And then we're just going to paste in that update key. And you can see the background turns blue. Now, if this wasn't a valid or complete update key, you can see that the program knows and turns the background red, and it disables the save button. So you have to make sure that you're using the complete and correct update key for your pseudo effect. And then we can just hit the save button. And then we can save out version 2 of Simple Graphs. You can see it's been created once again. And if we open that folder back up, you can now see that we have version 2. Now, it doesn't create a new key. Once you create that first key, it's going to be the same one for all your new versions of that same pseudo effect. So make sure you don't lose it if you want to create updates that are recognized as updates by the pseudo effect installer. Now that's it for creating these files. Now real quick, let me just go through some of the preferences that you have to choose from. Check for updates automatically. This is referring to the Pseudo Effect Builder itself, and this will make it so that every time you start Pseudo Effect Builder, it'll automatically check for updates. The Clear Info After Save checkbox will, once you save your pseudo effect, all of this information will be cleared out. The default creator name refers to this input right here. If you put in a default name here, then each time you start up the Pseudo Effect Builder, that input will automatically be filled out with whatever you put here. And then the last option is ask for a default location each time. If this option is selected, then whenever you hit the Save Pseudo Effect, it's going to pop up with a save dialog and ask you where you want to save it. You can also choose to set a default folder and browse for a folder on your desktop. And then each time you hit the save button, it's automatically going to save it to that location without having to ask you. So those are your preferences, and that's really it for this program. It's a very simple program, but it creates that nice, clean pseudo file that can be easily shared and installed on as many computers as the user wants to use it on, very easily with just a single click. So that's it for the Pseudo Effect Builder. In the next tutorial, we'll take a look at installing the pseudo effects.